So we're living in this world that's just completely driven by AI and algorithms, right? It feels like technology has an answer for everything. But what about when things go sideways? What happens when it all goes wrong? Well, that's what we're digging into today. We're going to explore this really powerful idea that in our super high-tech world, it's actually a deeply human quality, character, that's becoming our most important asset. All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. First up, we'll look at technology's big blind spot. Then we'll get into why character is the real game changer, especially in a crisis. And we'll wrap up by seeing how character doesn't just manage problems, it actually creates the whole culture of an organization. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the big limitation of our most advanced tools. I mean, they're incredibly powerful, no doubt about it, but they've got this one major blind spot. And it's a blind spot that, becomes crystal clear the second things get tough. Just think back to the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Absolute chaos. Uncertainty was through the roof. Now, who did you find yourself looking to? Who did we all look to? Was it the leader with the fanciest data model, or was it the person who just seemed calm, who was consistent, and who you felt you could trust? Yeah, I think we all know the answer to that one. And hey, this isn't a new thing. I mean, let's rewind the clock to the 2008 financial crisis. Wall Street was packed with geniuses, people who were masters of complex financial engineering. The technical skill on display, it was off the charts. And yet, the entire system was about to fall off a cliff. And that's what really shows you where people put their faith in the end. It wasn't in some new, more complicated algorithm or another fancy financial product. Nope. Trust flocked to the leaders who showed real moral clarity, the ones who had the courage to step up and take responsibility, even when it was the hardest thing to do. So this leads us right to the core of it all. If technology isn't the whole answer, then what is? Well, the real difference maker, the thing that truly sets people apart, is character. It's what gives us the why, the direction our tools just can't. And here's the core distinction, laid out plain and simple. Technology is fantastic at telling us how to do things, how to be more efficient, how to get from A to B. But character is what asks the much tougher, deeper questions. Why are we even doing this? And what is the right thing to do here? So when we talk about character-based leadership, it's not some fluffy, abstract idea. It has real, tangible results. For one, it gives you predictability. People know what to expect because you're guided by consistent principles. It also creates emotional stability, that feeling of psychological safety that is just so important. And finally, it's about having the guts, the moral courage to make the hard decisions based on your values, not just on what's easy or profitable in the moment. And this is where you see the real partnership between us and AI. AI is amazing at making decisions based on data. But humans, we make choices based on our values. And those value-based choices become absolutely critical when the data runs out, when you're in uncharted territory and the stakes couldn't be higher. Warren Buffett's leadership during that 2008 crisis is the perfect example of this in action. I mean, think about it. He didn't roll out some new complicated financial model. He just acted. He made his moves based on the exact same philosophy and moral compass he'd been using for decades. And that incredible consistency, that's what built a foundation of trust that was just rock solid. Okay, so let's get practical. How does this all translate into an actual framework you can use when things are hitting the fan? Because let's be real, it's during a crisis that you see what a leader is really made of. Well, it all kicks off with this fascinating idea from psychology called emotional contagion. The bottom line is this: a leader's attitude is never, ever a private thing. Your calm, your panic, your focus, it's contagious. It spreads like wildfire through the whole team. A leader who can stay internally steady can literally become the anchor for an entire organization in a storm. And we can actually see how character turns into action through these 5 stages. Look, it starts with calmness. You gotta have that internal stability. That allows you to make a sound judgment based on your long-term values, not short-term panic. From there, you need the courage to actually make the right call, which is often the hard one. Then comes the grind, consistent execution. And finally, you have to focus on trust recovery, using your reliable actions to rebuild and, believe it or not, even strengthen the team. Now, what's the glue that holds all of this together? It's communication. Especially in a crisis when nobody knows what's going on, your communication has to be anchored in character. And what does that mean? It means you have to be totally consistent. Your message can't change day to day. It means you have to be fair in how you treat everyone. And it means you gotta be honest, even when the truth is tough. You have to acknowledge reality. All right, let's zoom out for a second. Because character isn't just for those high-drama crisis moments. It's actually the bedrock of everyday leadership. In fact, it's the #1 thing that shapes an organization's entire culture. This is where that emotional contagion we talked about stops being temporary and becomes permanent culture. It's a simple truth. A leader's everyday actions, what they pay attention to, who they praise, how they handle a little bit of stress, that stuff sets the rules for everyone else. You don't get the culture you write down on a poster. You get the culture you live. So really, every leader faces this choice. Every single day. You can focus on the short-term fix, putting out fires, and that might solve the immediate problem, but it almost always chips away at trust over time. Or you can focus on the long game, building trust. And that is the path that leads to a culture that can weather any storm and grow for years to come. And when you boil it all down, what's the #1 thing that people on a team need from their leader? It's psychological safety. It's that feeling that you can take a smart risk, that you can speak your mind, that you can bring your whole self to work without being afraid of getting slapped down. And that feeling of safety, it doesn't just happen by accident. It is a direct result of a leader who leads with character. Think about Steve Jobs when he came back to Apple. The company was on the ropes. Now, his tactics might have changed over the years, but his core values, that obsession with innovation and perfection, they were non-negotiable. And that unwavering consistency became like a North Star for the whole company, giving everyone this powerful sense of direction that they could all get behind. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Character isn't something you're just born with. It's not fixed, it's more like a muscle. You build it day by day with every small choice you make. The choice to be honest, the choice to be consistent, the choice to act with a little bit of courage. In a world that's being defined more and more by algorithms, our own humanity, our character, that's become our biggest strategic advantage. So the only question left is, what choice are you going to make today?